When it comes to Hashimoto's, gluten can be a bit of a bugger. But even though most of us know we need to go gluten-free, sometimes it can be tough to execute it. In today's video, we're going to go over the 3 most common reasons people make mistakes when they're going gluten-free and why that can actually stall your weight loss. For the absolute best information when it comes to naturally supporting and strategizing for your Hashimoto's and thyroid gland so you can lose weight and improve your energy, make sure you subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. I post videos each and every Thursday, and doing those 2 things makes sure that you won't miss any of the content. My name is Dr. Bodle, and over the years I've helped hundreds of patients improve their thyroid symptoms naturally. And one of the ways that we do that is by managing someone's diet. But that can be a little easier said than done. Due to the way that big food companies market and advertise their foods, and some of the trickiness that comes along with the way our immune system works, it's not always as straightforward as we think it should be. So let's start off with the first most common mistake that people make, which is junk food that's gluten-free, it's still junk food. So here's a really important concept for us to understand. Food companies, on the by and large, not all of them, but most of them, do not care about our health. They care about making money and selling as much product as they can. So if they perceive something to be kind of hot in the marketplace, something that's going to sell more of their product, something like gluten-free, then they are going to use it to their advantage. Oftentimes you'll see this happening with brands or food companies who have a food that is normally gluten-free, but they just typically don't market it that way. So for example, I was walking down the aisle at the grocery store the other day and I saw some potato chips that had gluten-free plastered right across the front. Now, potato chips in general should be gluten-free. It should be potatoes, salt, and usually some sort of oil. And that doesn't necessarily make them good or bad, but that's the essence to them. But what this company is doing is it is banking on the fact that when you see that gluten-free label, you are going to perceive it as healthier than other options, and therefore, hopefully you'll buy it over those other brands. Now again, it doesn't mean it's better or worse, it just means that it's all part of the marketing tactics. But as we said, junk food that's gluten-free is still technically junk food. So don't be tricked by the gluten-free chips, the gluten-free candies, or the gluten-free donuts. None of these are going to be healthy for us, and if we want to make gains in our health and we want to make gains in our weight, we need to make sure we're avoiding these more highly processed and inflammatory foods. To help people avoid making this mistake, I recommend to those who need it, not only do they go gluten-free, but they also adopt a whole foods diet. So yes, this means you're going to have to read labels, and yes, if you're going to go out to a restaurant, you should probably do some pre-education beforehand. But there's an easy tool that I recommend to a lot of my patients, and you can use it as well, which is my literal rule of thumb. So the rule of thumb is if you're at the store and you're looking at a food product and you cannot cover up that ingredient list with your thumb, then you probably shouldn't be eating that food. Additionally, we know when those lists get really long that there's a bunch of words in there that can be pretty hard for us to pronounce. Now, not always are those bad things, but again, in general, it's a red flag for us and probably something that we should steer clear of. And lastly, another easy trick for picking whole foods, and you've heard me say this before, is pick foods with one ingredient. An apple is an apple, a steak is a steak. If we can select things that only have one ingredient in them, then it makes it a whole lot easier for us and we don't even have to deal with the label or the branding. Now the second mistake that I see a lot of people making is kind of on the flip side of what we just discussed. So you have the foods out there that are being advertised aggressively as gluten-free, but then you have other foods that you would think are gluten-free, but they're not. And so they have hidden sources of gluten that could be interrupting the way your body works. Now there are 3 primary areas that I think you should be on the lookout for, and they include toppings, sauces, and processing. Toppings include things like wheat flour when we add them to items such as fries or chicken to help crisp them up. This can be particularly frustrating for people because when our diet's already fairly limited and we want to do something like go out to a restaurant with friends, we're looking for that option that's a little bit more healthier for us and doesn't bother our system as much. And for most people, you think fries, that's potatoes, so that should be okay. But when we add that wheat flour to them, obviously it takes a food that could be all right and makes it into something that has gluten and can cause a reaction. This is even more of an issue when we choose something like sweet potatoes, where we're making that extra concerted effort to pick something that's healthy, but just as easily that flour can be added to the sweet potatoes, and therefore you have a recipe for something that isn't going to help you with your long-term weight loss goals. Next is sauces, and you have to be careful here because they can be super sneaky. So anything from most of our soy sauces to things like barbecue sauce, dressings including ranch dressings, Caesar dressings, and even things like gravy. All of these will tend to have wheat flour as a thickener, and therefore you'll see it all the time on the label. They're sneaking that in there to try to kind of bolster their product without having to use more expensive options. The last spot that we can get hidden sources of gluten is in the processing. So a lot of foods are produced in factories that have other products there. And if that factory contains things like wheat, barley, or rye, which are our main gluten-containing grains, there can be some contact between the different foods, and that can lead to contamination. One of the big ones that comes to mind is oats. Now, oats is technically a gluten-free food, but because it's so often processed in these factories with other gluten-containing grains, you have to make sure that it is certified gluten-free for you to feel confident that there isn't any of that cross-contamination. So if you pick up maybe something like a protein bar from the store and there isn't any wheat flour in it, but there is oats and it doesn't have that gluten-free designation, you want to be a little bit more suspicious and you may want to choose another option. Now for some of you, this is going to be totally new information, and for others, it's going to be a little old hat, and both is okay. But make sure you comment below and let me know, what food with gluten in it surprised you the most? How did you figure that out? And what did you do to take it out of your diet? I'm really looking forward to your responses because these things get a little nuanced and tricky, and everyone goes through a different path to figure these things out. Finally, the third most common mistake that people make when they're going gluten-free and trying to help support their weight loss is they're consuming grains that they are cross-reactive to. Now, cross-reactivity is a pretty tricky subject, but let's see if I can break it down for you. So essentially, our immune system is there to help defend us from infections, from invaders. And sometimes foods can be invaders, and sometimes they're not. But what can happen is we can develop antibodies for particular types of food. And so if you have a sensitivity to wheat or gluten within wheat, you will develop antibodies for a particular part of that molecule. As we've discussed before, these antibodies have a specific shape to them, which allows them to fit to and identify the thing that they don't like, the thing that they're trying to protect our body from. But what if you have a bunch of different food proteins that all have similar shape to them? Well, what can happen here is cross-reactivity, where that one antibody that you've made for gluten now can actually fit to these other non-gluten containing grains and cause a similar response as you would have if you ate gluten. To put it real simply, one antibody for one food protein, so one antibody for gluten, now fits to all these other grains. Things like rice, millet, sorghum, buckwheat, quinoa. And not everyone is going to have sensitivities to each one, but the possibility is there. So what happens is we go from consuming these foods with gluten in them to consuming all the foods with gluten-free grains. And turns out we have some sensitivities to one or multiple of those grains. This can cause us to continually perpetuate that inflammatory response, and inflamed people do not lose weight. So therefore, this is going to be one of the big things that can stall our metabolism and prevent that healthy weight loss. To make it more confusing, and you guys know I'm not a huge fan of food sensitivity panels, but if you were to go get one of those tests done, cross-reactivity will not show up on that panel. And the reason why is you only have specific reactivity for gluten. That's the only antibody that you're making. When it comes to cross-reactivity, you will not have antibodies for those other proteins. It's just the one antibody fitting to them. Therefore, rice will come back fine, millet will come back fine, buckwheat will come back fine. They will all look normal. We can only check for reactivity to one protein, but we cannot check for where in the body or what in the body that protein is binding to. And I get it, you guys. It can be really hard to find out that you have sensitivity to gluten because for a lot of us, all of our favorite foods have gluten in them. So when we find out that there's this whole world of gluten-free grains, we get excited because we think we're going to get a lot of those foods back. But for many of us, we cannot tolerate those other grains, and if we're continuing to have symptoms, then we need to take that extra step of not just going gluten-free, but also going grain-free. I know that can seem a little harsh, but if we're looking to have good outcomes, I've seen tons of people make that switch and finally get them over the hump where they can start losing weight again. So to quickly recap, the 3 common mistakes that people make when they go gluten-free is 1, they consume junk foods that are technically gluten-free, but they're still junk food. 2, they eat foods that have hidden sources of gluten in them. And 3, they consume a lot of the cross-reactive grains that they're still sensitive to. If this information was helpful to you, but you still need more guidance when it comes to your dietary choices, make sure you check out my free download, which is 109 foods to boost your thyroid and improve your energy, and you can find that at the link in the description box below. I use it with my patients every single day, and it has a comprehensive list of foods that you should and shouldn't eat and will get you on the right track to getting your health back. Thanks everyone so much for watching. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you check out some of my other videos that have a ton of great information in them, and I know they will benefit you. I always want to do the point thing. I see everyone else doing it, but I'm always a little nervous. I'm not going to point in the right direction. So thanks again, you guys. I appreciate you watching. I'm Dr. Brad Bodle. Stay healthy, and I will see you guys soon.